All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to a Christmas Eve special of the podcast. That's right. We are here shortly after the Wolves match review, breaking it down. As always, yours, Brandon, my host, Nick and Dan. And gentlemen, the festive period is either over for this half of the fans, or it's just beginning for another half of the fans. Care to choose, Nicholas, which side you're on?
Doesn't really feel that festive. I put on this stupid ass Chelsea ugly sweater to try and make myself feel something, and so far hasn't really worked. So, Merry Christmas to all and bah humbug and all that.
You haven't been able to replicate the magic of the day of your namesake, St. Nicholas there. So really just all of us losing in that regard.
I tell you what, it's going to be a tough couple days for some people, but hey, we're here. We're locked in. Obviously going to break down this one as best we can on Christmas Eve, as you mentioned, right after this one. So we'll get the temp check, Dan, per usual, with the 3-word match review. I was running the twits today, and I tell you what, engagement is heavy on this one. And I love it on Discord. Don't even need to provoke. They are, before the final whistle, in there just furiously typing. What did you pull out of here?
Well, they are elite in the way that they responded to it. And look, great responses all around to what was not a great result, Jason, with the Festivus pod incoming. Lots of these are going to be Christmas themed, no surprise. Damien with the Nightmare Before Christmas and a GIF as well. Great effort there. Pooh with a lump of coal. Philip with the resting Grinch face. In Classic 86 with the blue Christmas Eve. Captain Buzzkill with the yellow Christmas cards, using the old Brandon Busby image with the yellow caution card up. Donazgina with "You Filthy Animals." And then Caleb with the "This Is Us."
Those are some elite 3-word match reviews, if I do say so myself. Like, that's really, really good stuff in there. So
9s and 10s there. Much better than the performances on the pitch today.
Appreciate
score would rate those high.
Yeah, appreciate all involved, no doubt. But Dan, what about you?
Santa skips SW6.
Yeah, it went right to Molyneux, clearly. Nick, what about you?
I don't mean this in a religious way, but I just thought it was a fun word play. Chelsea's naivete nativity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of play in there. Yeah, a little bit of a word jumble. I went consolation doesn't console, but I appreciate Nkunku and everything he brings to this team.
I think you might have won. That was really good. I'm impressed.
I mean, standard status quo here. I actually am quite appreciative, Dan, because I usually I feel like falling third on this one. So nothing like peaking at the worst time of the season. Classic. Per usual, we always want to shout everyone out, Dan, for ways they can help us. And for those that have, super appreciative for all of that.
Yeah, everybody's leaving wonderful 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might be around a table this holiday and talking to a fellow Chelsea lover or sufferer, rather. You should get them to listen to the podcast, and maybe we'll cheer and lift their spirits. And you can also get them to rate and review with a 5-star review. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell icon to get notified. Getting ever closer to 30,000 subscribers there, so we appreciate that. You also sign up to Sam's wonderful newsletter, the one in his Blue Dispatch, doing bananas in terms of the business over there. And then look, you can also get stuck in and involved. Costs a couple bucks, but ultimately you can get involved in the conversation and support the podcast via Discord. Another great way to get stuck into a great community as well.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this one. It was Wolves on Sunday, the 24th of December, first match on Christmas Eve in like 30 years. Appreciate you, Premier League. It was the Molyneux Stadium. In case you missed it, Wolves 2, Chelsea 1. 51st minute, Lamina with a wide open header. 90th plus 3, Doherty, and then 90th plus 6 in Nkunku. Given a little bit of hope with that 11 that turned into 14 minutes of stoppage time. So, Dan, run us through the lineup, and then we can get into it.
Look, it was Petrovic between the sticks, Malo Gusto, Axel Disasi, Thiago Silva, and Levi Colwell as your back four. It was Ugo Chukwu and Conor Gallagher as your midfield, and 4 attackers started, but didn't necessarily always feel like it. Armando Broya, Cole Palmer, Nico Jackson, and Raheem Sterling were the 4 that started. And look, Poch making a habit of getting 5 subs out onto the pitch. Christopher Nkunku came on in the 58th minute. Kyler Moser came on in the 59th minute. And then a triple sub in the 79th and 80th minute of Ian Motson, Benoit Badiashile, and Nani Madueke coming back from a long-term injury that he had. So nice to see him back as well. Bertram, Bettinelli, Lavia, and Matos as unused subs. Nice to see Lavia back on the bench as well. So good for him.
Top line stats, Chelsea with 2.05 XG to Wolves 1.31. We had 69% possession, 16 shots, 5 on target to their 14 shots with 6 on target. From there, we had 6 yellow cards to their 3. We had 9 fouls. So 2 out of every 3 fouls was a caution for Chelsea today. To Wolves 11 fouls. We had 2 big chances, only missed 1. Wolves had 3 big chances, missed 2. They hit the woodwork, and we had 4 saves to their 3. So that's how the stats test rolled out. But 2 not random stats. This one essentially just breaking it down said Chelsea have lost 4 consecutive away Premier League games for the first time since December 2000 under the Tinkerman Claudio Ranieri, who actually lost 5. No side has lost more Premier League matches in 2023 than Chelsea with 19. Only Almeria, 24, Werder Bremen, 20, and Empoli, 20, have lost more games than the Blues across the big 5 European leagues this calendar year. There's the finish of that one. Those are both terrible.
And it's not over yet, Brandon. We still have more matches in 2023. Come on.
Yep, Palace. Nick, instant reacts to that lineup. I think I felt pretty good with it. I was a little worried about Leslie. I felt like he got forced in with Caicedo and Enzo both out. But I at least looked at this and was like, okay, yeah, no problem. Like largely unchanged from the previous result, a little bit of consistency. Let's run it.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned with Colwell, I think, because he came off early and I think was, over the last couple of weeks, it's kind of looked a little isolated out there at left back. Again, with all of our injuries, you worry about anyone coming back from injury, right? So Malagusto is another one where I was like, is he ready to start? I mean, a cameo in a cup game is different than playing in the Premier League, right? So all of that being said, it kind of played up like a 4-4-2 more than anything. It wasn't, they have Jackson slotted in here as the number 10. It didn't really feel like that to me. I don't know if that's how it felt like to you guys, but it should have been enough for Chelsea to win this game. We have better players than they do, and they played better than we did.
I think, Dan, minus a couple of that, obviously the backline did a little shift, but, this should have been good enough to beat Wolves on the day, at least at like face value, right?
Well, the stats would bear it out that Chelsea should have won this game. I think people will feel like we should have won this game, including our manager, when you look at the chances that Chelsea did create. But it is the reoccurring beat, the reoccurring theme, like the little drummer boy of Chelsea's season just continues to hit the exact same note that if you can't finish your chances, you don't get to win games.
How that will come back to us in the worst ways possible. All right. No NPET shithouse moment of the match. It's hard to, right? When you get outworked on the pitch at the end of it, you lose 2-1. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of becoming like the Dan of the match.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a spine to have an NPET shit house moment of the match, and we don't right now, and that's a big problem for the team.
Well, more on that as we discuss. We're going to take our first side break when we get back. We're going to talk a lot about decision making in the attacking third. So thank you to sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, Chess fans, we're back with another partnership through the end of the year. We got NordVPN coming at you to make sure you are safe and you're able to watch Chelsea no matter where you are traveling during the holiday season. A lot of you know I just got back from Costa Rica from Thanksgiving with the family. And guess what? I used a VPN to watch Chelsea while I was traveling. I was able to watch it on Peacock, no problems at all. So if you're traveling out of the country this holiday season, make sure to get NordVPN so you don't miss when we play Wolves on the 24th, when we play again after Boxing Day, and again before the end of the year. There are tons of matches coming up. You don't want to miss a single one. The other thing to think about, Are you want to watch match of the day? Are you trying to see the BBC coverage, Sky coverage? You can do it with over 5,000 servers from NordVPN. So if you go to nordvpn.com/London is blue, you're going to go ahead and pick the plan that's right for you. And we're going to give you 4 extra months for being a fan of London is Blue. That's right. You get an extra 4 months hanging out with us. We absolutely appreciate you checking them out. Now, if you aren't using a VPN, hey, I hate to break it to you, you're the only one. Not only do they keep you secure and all your information is encrypted, no more IP address tracking. The other thing is they've doubled down and they've added threat protection feature. So say goodbye to intrusive website ads, malware. Even if you download an infected file, threat protection kicks in and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Go to nordvpn.com/London is blue. Try it. Huge holiday deal. There's no risk. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee with NordVPN. That's how much they believe in the product. Support our sponsor, nordvpn.com/London is blue. Go watch match today. Go watch Chelsea if you're traveling. Never going to have to worry about being tracked on the internet again. Link in the description. You know what to do. All right. So unfortunately today, decision-making leaves us guessing. That's coming from the players and the managers, making our Chelsea Christmas cheer disappear. Well written, Dan. Credit where credit is due. The decision-making was not great, a bit shit, as one might say. So in attack, as it looked, the number one play. It was funny. Someone actually tweeted us and did the still frame with Raheem in on goal against Sa with Palmer and Jackson to his right and said he, in fact, would not score this 30 for 30 on ESPN coming soon. How in the world? Obviously, we know it didn't come off, but like, what's going on here?
We've seen it a couple of times now. This exact type of series of events where we do have a 1 or 2 player advantage in terms of our attack on defense and don't make the right decision. We either choose to shoot when we don't necessarily have the best angle. I mean, if you take a look at that Raheem Sterling one, I mean, his foot's on, he's got the ball on the right foot, his Saw is absolutely closing down on him. And realistically, you've got one of 2 players. Now, you might be concerned Nico Jackson is offside. Cole Palmer absolutely is not offside. So you definitely have an outlet there. And you don't really have any pressure behind you. So you have plenty of time to make the decision, get it right, and put it into the pathway to get a almost surefire goal, which completely changes the entire complexion of this game because Wolves don't want to be chasing a goal. You give them a goal up, they can play and dictate the game exactly how they want to take it for the rest of the game, Nick. But I think ultimately, we see, again, the same issue of we are not coherent within our attack. Our attackers are not supporting one another. It's less of a team. We talk about this as the construct of the team. Chelsea is failing. It is not a team. It is a group of individuals who are not necessarily on the same page. They're not committed to helping support one another. And this right here, we can play back, I think, in 2 or 3 months' time. And if this would be something, I don't know how it's going to get changed. It does, because it feels like it's just continuing to happen time and time again.
Yeah, you said it right. I mean, it feels like everyone's out for themselves in this photo. It is not the first time this has happened this year either. We have missed a ton of these sorts of chances that every other Premier League team, and I mean every other Premier League team, Sheffield United included, scores a goal here. Every single other fucking team scores a goal here. I mean, Brandon, you're looking at the goalkeeper. He's not even in the middle of the goal. There's acres of goal to shoot at. A player of Raheem Sterling's quality and experience simply is not playing at a level commensurate with his own standard. And I cannot believe, in looking back at this, that we were not 1-0 up, cruising to 2-0 up after this photo, because we were clearly more aggressive in the first half. We didn't really do much in the second half, obviously, but like this is abysmal, and it's happened for years now. And I'm looking at that guy at 29 years old, who should be the talisman of this team from an attacking standpoint moving forward, simply not capable of making the right choice one-on-one. and all he has to do is slide the ball over to Palmer, who's as sure-footed as you could ever hope for. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, look, there was 4 options available. 3 of them would have resulted in a goal. He chose door number 4, right? Because he could have dribbled him, Fernando Torres-esque, right?
Yeah.
Didn't do that. Could have passed, which is the FIFA sweat goal. I mean, Raz knows the FIFA sweat goal. Could have dinked him from that point, which would have been the hardest of those 3, without a doubt. And he chose the shot. He was looking for that gap between the elbow and the hip and just hit it right into the goalkeeper. And like, Sa is trying to be clever. I've been in the situation. It's miserable. You actually want to cheat to the right so that you try to force them to go to the left. The fact that he shot there and shot so poorly is just, it's bad. I mean, he could have opened it up and framed it even better. You could make 4 options out of 5 and he chose 5. It's not good enough, especially in this situation. And these are the points where like, I actually feel bad for Poch. What more could you have possibly wanted out of the team? Great win, breaking with numbers, spreading out the runs, maybe not ideal, but like there's no reason. There's no reason he's going to halftime being like, wow, all right, we got to come up with something here. It's unfathomable. I just get so confused how Chelsea are unable to do the easy things like this. And it's made our lives so much more difficult this season because of it. There's no doubt about it. My mind's blown, but it wasn't just Raheem, which by the way, apparently I can't call him Raz on social. If he's having a bad game, I'm supposed to call him Raheem. So appreciate
it's
comment.
like Bob and Robert, you got to know when you can give the, Raz and Chaz. That's a positive moment. Yeah.
Clearly Raz is a positive nickname. Right. And we're not allowed to use that. The other one is Nico Jackson, which lightning rod. I'm just going to say real quick, don't say something on Twitter you're going to highly regret for a long time. I think some people have already done it, but you can be upset and still not venomous, I would say. But Nick, as we see here, he got into the box with the ball, but he only registered a single shot. And that was in the 12th minute early on, and lost possession 11 times, constantly trying to bring it over to his right foot. He just refuses to use his header as left. That beautiful cross by Raheem where he's on the back post. He tried to trap with the outside of his right foot, which is the inside. I mean, it should have been an easy left foot soft volley into the back of the net. And it's just, he is questioning everything he does right now. Low confidence.
Yeah, and it's limiting for sure to have an attacker who is not confident on most of his shooting apparatus. Like it's difficult. And I think there was a lot of chatter from what I could tell. Finishing's been a consistent, I think, kind of trope for him this year, but like the effort, kind of the aimlessness, the again, stupid yellow card that was received. I think he had a very poor day out, and I think it is completely fair to criticize that performance as not being at the standard. Again, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if you can make a player magically better on his left foot throughout the span of one, kind of season, or if he needs, something else in training or whatever, because again, we don't claim to be coaches on this podcast, but I think people were just as upset with the effort at times as they were with the end result, and that is not a place that you want to be if you're Jackson, right? Part of your allure is that from whatever you want to talk about him this year, he's been a hustle kind of player. He's been chasing a lot. He's been, working the press. He's been doing some of the off the ball things that are kind of minimum requirements for Chelsea. There were moments today where that wasn't happening, and I think that's when the fans started to pile on.
Well, I think where I'm struggling is, and I think when you look at the other striker on the pitch as well. I mean, Broya didn't have a great game either. I think he was much better in the last match than he was in this one. He only registered a single shot as well in the 11th minute. He was quiet and muted for the rest of the game as well. And both of them are struggling not having a more senior striker to either play off against or to partner with or to be someone who they can play off of. I think we have two players I think who are more likely better suited as a second striker to someone else or in need of someone who can provide them better or more regular service, because you look at who is on the pitch in terms of Sterling and in terms of Mudryk, who are not necessarily. I mean, Sterling, is a better assister, even after what we would say today than maybe Mudryk has been. But there's still just not enough connective tissue. And when you've gone then to Gallagher and Ugochukwu as your midfielders, I was not expecting them to assist or contribute from an attacking perspective today, given it was going to be on the front four entirely to make something happen, Brandon. And so when they were not making it happen, I didn't think anybody else was going to be contributing a goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we've seen that most of the season and with those players. But if you're going to throw on 4 attackers with counter and behind, like, surely that's enough. At some point, you need some people to stay back and defend a little bit, and that's what we were waiting for.
Yeah.
Look, it was not a fluid day. It was a lot of lack of movement, which I think is the most frustrating thing. Especially towards the end, you only had like 1 or 2 players kind of in the box, and like 2 to 3 players on each wing, kind of waiting for that ball to go out wide to recycle in. So it's I understand Wolves wanted to play a deep line towards the end. If you look at the attacking momentum on SofaScore, they really only played for about 30 minutes, right? About maybe not even, honestly. It's about 8 minutes before halftime. And then it was a good 15, 20 minutes after. And they shelled up the rest of the game after that. And when it came down to that, like minus them switching off and Nkunku being wide open at the top of the 6, like we were back to just recycling the ball back and forth and never a lot of standing around. No movement.
No movement. I mean, Nkunku was the only player. There were 4 or 5 of these. Go watch the tape where he was the only one trying to dive at a desperate cross that was coming across the 6-yard box. Like he fully like salmoned a couple of these, like where he was full. Like if he gets hit there, he's going to be really hurt. And he was the only one showing that sort of grit and determination to get on the end of one of these crosses. But again, it begs the question for me, Dan, why is that the only method of attack when you're playing a low block? We've been so frustrated over the last handful of seasons, not even just this season, but the fact that we cannot have the creative juice to unlock some of these. Like Wolves is a very average defense. They're not even best in class. Like they were just stood in space where they thought we were going to be, and it worked.
I mean, the only person I think reliably among the bunch of players that we discussed who might win a header and might actually be able to kind of flick on would have been Nkunku. I mean, maybe Palmer occasionally, not necessarily reliable there. Jackson, not necessarily reliable from perspective as it relates to heading. I mean, Gallagher, if he was making a run in, sure. I mean, that would have been an option. But when you don't have Silva, Dadashio, Caicedo, others kind of pressing forward, like we don't really have that type of aerial dominance in this team at the moment who can contribute that in the attack. And so like the crosses were, I think, waiting for someone to run in on. And I think that's where like the movement was necessarily like it needed to either be, you couldn't go low because of the amount of players in the box. And so you needed to find some other way to create an opportunity. And I think, Brandon, this is like the issue. Like we are creating opportunity. Like we are just not, when we have the opportunity, when we have the space, when we had chances, we just continue to not take advantage of it. Cause like I pulled this, and this was pre this game where we had like another 2xG. We have continued to win the XG battle, but lose the war of actually like getting a result on the pitch. If you add the 2 in just on top of what we're at right now, that puts us basically level with Liverpool in terms of total XG created. And then Liverpool are 1 behind Newcastle. And that would actually, we would then be ahead of City by 3. So like that is crazy because all of those teams have a better record than us. And we are the one who just continues to underperform.
Yeah, Newcastle here, this is from FBref, has 36.4 XG created this season. Liverpool on 35.4. We were 33.3 headed into it. To Dan's point, that puts us at 35.3, essentially level with Liverpool. And then Man City are in fourth with 32.2 and Arsenal at 32.1. I think this is the strongest Poch argument for those that are like, oh, it's Poch, it's not, or it's Poch's fault, not the players. I mean, I would think that he's clearly setting the team up to be successful if, we're with Liverpool and Newcastle at the top of the table. You want to create chances. Now, at the end of the day, players have to finish, right? Players have to make the right decision. Maybe you could argue, Nick, that, well, they need to create different chances so that the players can actually finish. But I don't think anyone like on this podcast, our listeners are going to be like, you know what? We really haven't created enough chances. Like that's Maurizio Sarri ball, where like chances weren't coming. We were just possessing to possess. Like they're there. We just take one too many touches, try to pull it from a right to a left. Like you just think of all the things we've talked about. It's clearly a decision-making or an inability to get that final shot off. The build-up play and getting into dangerous spaces has largely been there consistently this season.
Well, it's been better than last season, right? I think we talked about the goals scored so far being better than last season. A lot of the chances being created being better than last season, but it's still not good enough. I mean, it's still not good enough for the profile club that Chelsea are. And this is, if you're going to pile on Mauricio Pochettino after this game, and there are a lot of people who were piling on Mauricio Pochettino, and this would be an area where I would pile on because he's not been with them 6 months. These chances still go begging, right? So it makes me question what methodology is happening in training where we're better than we were, but we're not nearly good enough to break through and be a top 6 side. And a lot of that's down to goal scoring. There have been plenty of games where we've been in it. We concede a dumb goal and then we can't claw our way back. And Chelsea of old, the Chelsea that people are nostalgic for right now, always fought back, always got that goal, always found some pathway forward, always had a bit of extra quality to go and get it. And I think that is, if I were trying to sort through a lot of the Twitter comments that I got, I think that may be a theme that people are really, really frustrated by.
I get it. Look, the biggest difference for us, and Dan, you have put it in the table, we're in the bottom half of this squad shooting, right? In the sense of we're not getting shots off, right? So you remember our XG was about the same as Liverpool. They get 323 shots off this season. We have 226. That means blocked, off frame, on frame, in the goal. We're almost 100 shots fewer. Tottenham 288. Arsenal 276, Brighton 270. That's your top 4. We're at 226. Shots per 90, 13, right? Top of the table, they're over 15, pushing 18. Most of our shots have come off of free kicks. And how many of those have gone in? One. Like, these are not where we want the numbers to be coming from at this point. So, Dan, the expected here of 33.3 is really almost shows you just how much better the positioning in the build-up play is, because there's jack shit on the end of it.
Well, it is kind of, I think at this point it feels a little ridiculous. Ultimately, I mean that would probably be the best way to say it, is that like you can't continue to do all this and not create the opportunities for yourself to win games, to take advantage of games. And ultimately, I mean, I think there's things that would make sense to do. Like I'm shocked that we still aren't finding ways. I mean, we had 6 corners, right? In not one of those corners did I think we registered any type of attempt that would have put us in a situation to say, oh, that would count as a shot on target. That would count as a goal opportunity. That is a consistent theme over the course of the season that we are not. I mean, there have been a couple, right? There have been a couple goals that we've I think, fluked into because a player misses their jump and we just happen to jump higher and we had to knock it in. And that's great. That is absolutely fantastic. I would like to see more of those. You know what would get more of those? A set piece coach who would coach that into this team to both defend set pieces so that we don't give those up, and then help us from an attacking set piece perspective so we actually can do some creative stuff and actually create more chances with the opportunities we're being given. And this would be like, hey, 6 more chances to potentially will yourself an extra goal in this game where maybe you are struggling that's a block, but because you set up for a set piece situation, you might be able to make something happen.
Well, like we played terrible on set pieces all year, but the one game where we actually attacked set pieces offensively was against Brighton. We had those 2 nod backs that ended up being goals. We haven't done that since that game. Why? Like, what? It works. You have tall guy, back post, heads back, someone in the box, easy header forward, goal. It's not a brilliant, piece of offensive football, but it works. It's effective. Like, we aren't even getting a head on the ball now. Like, that is completely regressed since Brighton, and it wasn't like we were great before that. Offensively, defensively, it's a fucking shambles, which we can get into. But like, offensively, we tried that thing. It worked twice, and then we haven't done it since.
Look, the other thing I'll say about this is, the conversions are pretty much there. Like, it's about 1 out of every 10 goes in. We just don't shoot. It is the lack of an killer instinct. No one has the confidence to take anything one time.
They all have to walk it in. They have to walk it in and get a sure thing instead of just ripping. Like, Jose Salah's not a great goalkeeper, Brandon. He's not.
There's no argument there. But I think like the frustration is they have to put it on their strong foot. They have to have time. It's just like, just smash it into a corner and move on, and we don't do that. So anyways, enough about that. But clearly, like, this is the 2 halves of the question. And this is where people have to figure it out, right? Like, are you on the XG side that, hey, there's momentum? Or are you on the lack of shots, aka the players not doing the last bit? I was laughing in my head when we were talking about this. If you muted the word shoot in Discord, it would be very quiet during these matches, because half the time everyone's just yelling shoot anytime these players get in a half chance, and we just don't do it. So I don't know. We'll see. We can continue to dig into it. All right, we're going to take our last ad break. When we get back, plenty more. Definitely just kind of talking big picture, lack of discipline, so much more. So thank you to sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right. Hey, it may be Christmassy, but don't worry. We have more pods coming at you. That's right. CFC Central's back with the Palace preview. We'll do the Palace match review, and then we've obviously got the Luton match preview. So Dan and Sam putting in the hours. Make sure to sub and check it out. All right. For this last one here, just talking about the fact that discipline has gone missing. Like, where do we place this on Poch, the players? I mean, it is non-existent. If we go through the cautions today, you start out, Connor gets his for a foul. All right, we're playing football. Then Cole Palmer argument. Malo Gusto kicking the ball away. Nico Jackson argument. Raheem Sterling simulation. Actually feel pretty bad for him on that one, Dan. And then the cherry on top is my guy who I'm cooling on after this, Marcus Bettinelli from the bench. Yellow card for arguing, Dan. This is bad. Everyone is circulating the Nico Jackson has more cautions than goals. Sterling is now suspended. Palmer is now suspended. This is a problem. We're not kicking, we're not lumping people. We're talking. It's bullshit.
Bad vibes. Very bad vibes. I mean, ultimately, we are going to be I actually think with the cards we received today, we are going to be number 1 in one table for the league, and that is yellow cards received. We were just behind Sheffield United as the second most caution side, and so now we have gone up into first place, top of the table for Christmas. What an honor! What a wonderful moment for us to celebrate and recognize. We are 3 red cards in total this season, only behind Liverpool and Tottenham, who have 4 apiece. And when you start to go through the list of players, I mean, again, add one, right? So like Nico Jackson, you had the one for today. 8 total cards. Mark Cucurella at 5 cards. Conor Gallagher now with 5 cards. Sterling now with 5 cards. Enzo with 4 cards. Palmer with 5 cards. Caicedo with 3 cards. This is really unfortunate, but a lot of it is actually down to the player not actually saying anything, because so many of ours have actually just come from like stupid dissent. And I know that I think the issue, Nick, is the rule has changed season over season, but we have not caught up to the rule and said, you know what, like this is the rule now and it sucks, but we need to find a different way to channel our frustration than mouthing off to the official. And you know what? We as fans very much know that the officials get a lot wrong. And I think that can be frustrating to feel that the game is not being officiated fairly or that you're not getting the right call. But ultimately, this comes down to, I think, Pochettino saying, like, look, we can't have this stupid BS happen anymore, because at this point, like you are being detrimental. Like now we walk into a game that should be an opportunity for us, or should have been an opportunity for Chelsea to get 3 more points right against Crystal Palace. And now multiple players in an injury crisis are not going to be available that are healthy, that could contribute, because they have accumulated these fouls over the course of the season.
This really lights my fire. I could forgive the first couple of months of the season, players not understanding the rules or not adjusting to the rules effectively, but this fish rots from the head. This is on Poch to me. Like this is clearly a coachable area for the team, and they have not been coached out of it. And I think there were times last year where the team did not play with enough fire and everyone lit them up for that. This year they can't contain themselves. And it's the really dumb ones like Bettinelli today that really light my fire. Shut the fuck up. What are you doing? Like what are you accomplishing from the bench, Marcus Bettinelli, who has not played this season? Are you just taking one for the team for reasons? Like why? Mal Gusto, stop kicking the ball away. Jackson, figure out any other way, like run off your frustration. It's unacceptable and it's hurting the team, because once you're on that yellow card, you have to play differently than you would have played otherwise. You don't have the freedom, Conor Gallagher, you don't have the freedom to make the tackle anymore, because the next one could be your right card. This is unfucking acceptable to me. I just genuinely, it's not the really tough tackles that upset me, because those happen in every game. I think it's a physical league with physical teams in it. It's the mouthing off to the official. It's the kicking the ball away. It's the dissent from the bench. You got to get this shit under wraps. I mean, if there's ever a moment where I feel totally qualified to talk about something like this, it's now. Like, this is unacceptable. And if you keep going, it's only going to hurt your chances and hurt your chances and hurt your chances. And we are now missing, 3 players from the next game for dissent or for yellow card accumulation, like the dumbest possible reasons. And what, you may not beat Palace because you don't have your full complement of options and an injured team already. I mean, give me a break, man. It's so bad.
Well, Dan, look, this is what is creating so much contention within the Chelsea community right now, right? And I was thinking it's one of those things where, like, you're at a wall in the cartoon, and then like one leak appears, so you like stick a finger in it, then another leak appears, so you stick a finger in it, then another leak. It's like we can't plug enough leaks in our ship right now.
There are no digits left. There are no digits left for the number of holes that are popping open.
Plug 1 to come out, right? And like the cautions are compounding into suspensions. Jackson's about to get a 2-match mandatory suspension. Welcome to the Premier League. This is creating so many risks, because like I don't think we really know like where to focus our energy and effort to fix it, because there's always something else. There's always something else, a new thing or consistent, like with the bad behavior and the lack of discipline. this is where the fractures are, I think, in the Chelseaverse right now. And it is really hard for people to try to grasp what apparently used to be a well-run ship tightly, right or wrong, and the floodgates have opened.
I think it's people struggle with the fact that the players don't seem to have accountability, right? And I think a lot of players potentially who might have gotten dropped to things like these suspensions can't be because of injury, which is, another thing. These injuries kind of continuing is about the accountability for our fitness, our conditioning, our training. And that is like the medical department, the coaching team, the questions and concern around like, are these coaches executing at the level that they need to be to deliver for Chelsea? I think that is fair frustration to feel at this moment, at this time, because it doesn't seem like players are continuing to improve maybe at the way that they were or we thought they might be at earlier points in the season. And so like that is a concerning or kind of an indicator that maybe something is not going the way that it should be. And then you have the recruitment, the players in and out that we've done, with the technical directors, the footballing directors that we have in place, that may have not set our team, our manager up for success within who they brought in and who they took away and where Chelsea are right now. We talked about, at the beginning of the season, Nick, who those players would potentially be that would go missing, who would be leaving, and we would regret that they left. Boy, oh boy, I wouldn't mind Ruben Loftus-Cheek back in the Chelsea side right now. I wouldn't mind a couple players who've left over the past couple windows to be back actually in this side over some of the players that we brought in. Not saying every player has been bad, but I think from organizationally, owners, directors, manager, players, everyone is accountable to the way we feel right now as supporters, which is frustrated that the club is not achieving or hasn't gone back to the level that we would expect them to be at, which is competing for a title or competing for European glory. It is just whack-a-mole.
Everybody gets a failing grade right now. At this point in the season, 10th, halfway through the table, that's a failing grade. It's a failing grade. Come on. I mean, we have to be serious about it. Now, I think there's a significant difference in saying that there's a failing grade happening and we need to burn all the ships. Like you can have a nuanced take like that. You can admit this has not gone to plan for 1,000 reasons: injuries, suspensions, bad luck, VAR, performances, all of it, and still think that firing a manager is not the right call, right? Like that, that selling your captain right now is not the right call, right? Like I wanted to see a lot more progress than I'm seeing at this point in the season. I think everyone has. I think the inconsistency is driving people crazy. It's certainly, I'm teetering toward that. I think when we did our Smokey the Bear a few weeks ago, I was not in the stage that you guys were, but I'm very much there now. That I thought we had some winnable games coming up. Surely, if we won those games, the team went on a run, things would change. It's not happening. I saw this loss coming from a mile away. The team is not capable of putting together two good enough, not even great, good enough performances to win in a week. And we're not even playing extra football like some of the teams at the top of the table. That's really, really concerning. All of it's concerning. Do I think we should abandon ship and light everything on fire? No. But I'm concerned. And I think it's fair to be concerned. I don't think that, as Brandon said, if you're on Twitter saying things that you can't walk back, that may be a tougher spot to be in than what I'm saying. But it is frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. Be frustrated. For all the fans who went up there and had to witness that on Christmas, like, get your money back. Because that wasn't good enough. But I think there's a huge difference in acknowledging a failing grade, acknowledging the sources of the failing grade, and saying, fuck it, everything's burning. Let's just burn it. Does that make sense to anyone else? I don't know.
Well, I would say we've definitely already burned everything we had and have started over. We're definitely, it's like as you're trying to build it up, we've definitely had some setbacks. Some pieces have crumbled and had to start over. The architectural design of this club is not working out. Like point blank, whatever Bully and Igbali thought that they were going to do when they came in, it's not coming off. It's not working the way they wanted to, but instead we just kind of are plowing along with some things. And on paper, bringing in Poch, his backroom staff, settled, a bunch of young up and coming players probably makes sense. Where I get upset is the sporting directors clearly didn't have the foresight to realize bringing in a bunch of U21s to compete in the Premier League isn't a winning strategy, and there needed to be more balance, especially as Thiago Silva winds down his career. You put all of the pressure on Raheem Sterling and potentially a Ben Chilwell as your senior players from an age perspective. Chilwell's not around. Raheem is up and down. And there's no one left to grab this team by the scruff of the neck and drive them forward like we used to have. To Nick, you said in the beginning, there's no spine in this team. And that's where we have some massive failures. And I put a lot of it at the sporting directors in the feet of them. And here we go on their squad building project. And well, I have no idea what's going to happen in January, but we can't burn another like 300 million, Dan. I mean, we surely can't, but time will only tell. And it's just going to put us in a worse position financially. And we're going to be trying to chase our burn rate until it comes back to haunt us is my biggest concern now.
Well, I think it's funny because you're thinking about it like as a startup culture, and maybe this is just me and my background. I'm also thinking about
I'm
it as
thinking
like
about it
the
from like
way.
Bully and Igbali too, right? Like, how are they
Well,
potentially looking at this?
yeah, I'm thinking about it like from the tech or like building out like a system or an app or something. And like you get an opportunity when you're building things like that to do it in a sandbox before you ever take it out and roll it out to get like your user testing and to get feedback on it. And as much as you would hope to have some ability to test and see your theory in sport, it doesn't exist like that. I mean, the way to test that theory would have been to do it to actually go the reverse route instead of Chelsea first and then like Strasbourg and other teams. It would have been to get into Strasbourg first and then build up and add in the other clubs. And so now we're potentially seeing the 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 issue of kind of a lack of understanding or a lack of the right individuals that help execute the larger strategy. And I think that's where, whether that's players, whether that's the sporting director, whether that's the profile of manager you're looking for, all the pieces don't fit together appropriately. And I think that's where there's the issue now, Nick, is that the board can't be set together appropriately, and it's going to need someone to come in and say like, look, here's what we're going to do from January 1st forward. Like I would imagine is not a nice Christmas Eve for anybody affiliated with Chelsea's hierarchy around trying to figure out how are you going to change this heading into the new year, because none of this is matching the ambition that anybody has set out publicly, whether that's the owners, whether that's the sporting directors, whether that's the manager. None of this matches with what the expectation was to achieve at the end of the season. And this is your last point in January. If you're going to make a change, you have to know what that change is going to be now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the really difficult part is, I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at my own mentions. People are not happy with some of the things that I've said. And I don't think I've said anything rash. I think I've actually gone the other direction. I don't know if sacking Mauricio Pochettino gets you anywhere else this season. I think you're in a really hard spot if you're Chelsea. And if you do not make the current crop of players better, if you don't get better performance improvement out of some really talented players who are paid a lot of money, I don't know what else is going to happen here. I don't think bringing in Victor Osimhen or Ivan Toney is gonna change your season. I don't think sacking Mauricio Pochettino is going to change your season. I don't think sporting directors leaving is going to change your season. I think that the choices that were made in August are the ones that we have to live with. This is the bed that we have to lie in. And the only option that I see is that Pochettino and his staff and the players come together and coalesce and stop whatever has happened so far and improve. And I know that sounds like really caveman basic, but I don't know what else we can realistically do here, Brandon. I mean, I think the frustration of it all.
Yeah, I mean, you sack Poch, Lampard's coming back. Let's be honest. Like, is that really what we want or need right now? I mean, this is not, I don't know. Anyways, I don't see it either. But speaking of Poch, to your point, he had some quotes post-match. He said, quote, "We feel very disappointed because I think we deserve much more. This competition wounds you when you are not clinical. We created chances. That's why it's so disappointing. We conceded after a few corners, and it was really difficult. We need to score if we want to win the games. We are very disappointed. Sometimes we have to keep a clean sheet. If we cannot score, we conceded too many corners. We need to keep going and pushing. Young teams learn from this sort of game," end quote. Dan, it's like we had a corner meter and it's like, oh, we can defend 3, but not 4. And we got to 4 and we conceded. They broke us down. But what do you think about Potts there? I mean, obviously he's talking about no clinic. We need to be clinical. You have to score goals to win in this league. And then he kind of bails the players out at the end and says, this is something they're going to learn from.
I don't know what else he can necessarily do. I mean, he, again, on the stats, you would argue that we should have won the game. And I mean, he's pointing back to, I would say, he would pull up the sofa score and he should just point to it and be like, hey, see, like we did enough to win this game. And he would be accurate to the effect of like, yes, if you ran this in simulation, we did enough to win. But it comes down to, I think, the points we discussed earlier, the player discipline, the execution on chances, the inability or unavailability of certain players, Nick. I mean, ultimately, like I don't know what else I'm expecting him to say at this point. I know that he's not. I don't think he's overly cheery or effusive, but I also think he's not doom and gloom. And I mean, I think the doom and gloom has to be kind of the behind the scenes thing to try to get it figured out and address it.
I feel so. I'm really conflicted about this. The things he can control are training and improving players in training, setting up the team properly, getting the right tactics, helping the discipline, all that sort of stuff. He can't score the fucking goals. I mean, and the reason that I'm conflicted, and maybe sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I hope that's not the way it's coming across, is because Chelsea have struggled to score for years now. Like, this is not just a him problem. We're actually better than we were last year scoring goals, which was a very low bar to clear, admittedly, because it was as bad as it's ever been. But he can't score them too, and so I'm conflicted about this, Brandon. Do I think that Mauricio Pochettino needs to do a much better job in the second half of the season with this team? I do. And I think that's a fair enough point. We're 10th. It's a failing grade. But it's not Mauricio Pochettino with the 1-on-1 or the 3-on-1 against the goalkeeper to put away the first goal either. And you need your Raheem Sterlings to come through. If Nkunku gets all these goals and shows the quality we've been missing, then maybe we have a different conversation in February or whatever. But I don't know, man. It's just maddening to watch this. And I don't think that sacking at this point, I'm just putting it out there, I don't think sacking him is going to do the job that fans are hoping for. And I think it's a wild swing to suggest that if you don't have a better option.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt. I was just kind of looking at stats again and things like this and trying to think back to the match. And look, everyone's going to have an opinion. I think this is the project that the owners enabled through the sporting directors. Poch is aware of it. So I do think he's trying not to bring the thunder, but at the end of the day, you got to score goals. There's no excuse that Chelsea did not score 1 goal today. And he's making sure everyone knows that.
Well, 1 more goal, you mean, beyond the Nkunku goal?
Yeah.
His first goal. No balloon celebration, which was disappointing, but also very understandable given the state of the game.
I'm pleased about that, honestly. I think that would have sent the wrong message. I also think like young teams learn from this sort of game. We've had this sort of game a lot this year. We haven't learned. So that's another thing. Like, at some point, those have to come good, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. I forgot where it's go. Oh yeah. So unfortunately, like I think, oh yeah, Olivia Buzaglo tweeted that this Nkuku made his debut, and then this was his debut goal in the Premier League as well. Like what a flattening mood for him to get both those, but just shows you how important he is. All right. Obviously no day of the match, so we can move on from that. But Nick, the festive fixture period. This was, I believe, the last match of the game week. Um, City were off winning the Club World Cup, so that game was postponed. But everyone else played. What do we have?
Palace Brighton 1-1, Villa Sheffield United 1-1. That was kind of a interesting result.
Makes our
West
win
Ham,
look better, baby.
yeah, I guess. West Ham, Man United. West Ham just throttled them in the second half. That was kind of hilarious. And then United announced Ratcliffe today, so take that. Burnley beat Fulham. Red hot Fulham lose to Burnley. That's a weird one. At home too. Luton beat Newcastle. Really cool moment where Andros Townsend lifted up Lockyer's shirt after the cardiac arrest last week. So that was very, very cool. Forest lose to Bournemouth on a Dom Solanke hat trick. Everyone clamoring for Dom Solanke in the January window now. My, how the turntables. Tottenham beat Everton 2-1. Everton had a few chances to level that or even win it in the second half. Just didn't have enough quality. Liverpool, Arsenal, very, very boring 1-1 draw. And then Wolves beat Chelsea 2-1. So, again, there was a huge opportunity if you win this game to move up, and then claw some of those points back that you desperately need against rivals. And they couldn't fucking do it.
Yeah, bit of a bummer, which leaves us in a bigger pile of bummer. The table, Arsenal top on 40 points still. Liverpool second on 39 points. Villa third also on 39 points. Tottenham in fourth with 36. City in fifth with the game in hand. They could jump right back up to fourth. Then you got West Ham 6, Newcastle 7, United 8, Brighton 9, Chelsea 10th on 22 points. Even if we won today, we would still be in 10th because Brighton are on 27. There's starting to be a gap between us and the single digit places. Highly concerning. Wolves are now up to 11th level on points with us, and so are Bournemouth. So now we have to worry about Wolves and Bournemouth jumping us every single week, and even Fulham in 13th on 21 points. We are now one bad week of results away for being in 13th place.
The only thing saving us right now is our goal differentials +1, and there's our -7, -8. So it's like,
but
it's
soon
tenuous at best.
Points are about to overtake that. The way this
Yeah.
is going, this is shambolic. Fulham, like I said, are in 13th on 21 points. Brentford are one win away from drawing us in 14th on 19 points. Then you get into Palace in 15th on 18 points. Lord, we have to win that game. Oh my God. Everton in 16th on 16 points, which again, big asterisk next to their name with their record. Forest in 17th on 14 points. Then you've got Luton at 18th on 12, Burnley 19th on 11, Sheffield in 20th on 9. Dan, we have missed 2 to 3 really obvious moments of picking up even 1 point like today that would have made a significant difference. And now we unfortunately are much closer to becoming a teenager than getting into single digits in the table. That is concerning and such a problem right now.
I mean, if you add the couple of goals for that we didn't end up scoring, you very easily could put yourself in a alternate reality or a alternate timeline where Chelsea are very much in the top 3 to 5 spots on this table. And that is just not the reality that we live in. So enjoy this semi-depressing timeline because it's not the one where Chelsea are winning the league this season. That's for sure.
I mean, you're 5 points off Brighton in 9th. That's a big gap. You should be closer to Man United and Newcastle than you are. West Ham shithousing their way to 30 points this point of the season. That would have been about the minimum expectation that I would have had for about halfway through. To get 60 points in a season shouldn't be hard for Chelsea Football Club, but it is. And we have to, I mean, again, it's bad. Everyone gets failing grade. I've said this multiple times on the show. I think that is the anger I have. The discipline's the anger I have. The lack of improvement or consistency is the anger I have. I think we're just going to be in a tough spot this year, guys, and everyone's just going to have to buckle up.
Well, buckle up indeed. But that's going to wrap us up. We are done as everyone is shutting the laptops until the new year.
Slam.
And they're on their work posts. We are only shutting them for a few days. There's a lot more, as we said, from content. And we play Palace coming up pretty soon. So look, pause the Chelsea nonsense. Find time during the holidays to enjoy some moments, make some memories with friends and family. We're all lucky to do that, and we want you to do it as well. But we're still here for you on the Chelsea side. If you need consoling, a little bit of consolation, head up Discord. That's where our friends are. But anyways, that's going to wrap us. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.